Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into a story that's incredibly personal, full of really extreme challenges, and maybe surprisingly, it's all unfolded very publicly, right there on the internet. Just a heads up for you listening. This deep dive gets into some deeply disturbing and explicit details. We're talking trauma, exploitation, violence. So listener discretion is definitely advised. We want to present these narratives raw and unfiltered, just as they appear in our sources. We're focusing on the intertwined lives of Tanea and her daughter Nova, and also the men connected to them, Crip Mac and Snoopy Badazz. Our source material. It's pulled from a whole range of YouTube interviews. Think soft white underbelly, no jumper, witty apparatus, plus various online articles too. And these sources give multiple viewpoints. Sometimes they even conflict, which gives us this really raw, often unsettling picture.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to unpack all of this, to try and understand the complex realities behind its survival, family dynamics, the pull of fast money, and also the huge impact of being so exposed, living life under the social media spotlight in Los Angeles. We'll explore these cycles of trauma, resilience that pops up in unexpected ways, exploitation, and how those lines between personal life and public spectacle just get completely blurred.
Okay, let's start this deep dive with Tanea's story.
Yeah.
It really sets the scene for how a hustler gets made, so to speak. Tanea was born to parents who were incredibly young. Her mother was 15, her father just 14. Her dad was a professional boxer, also involved in dealing drugs, and seemed to be in and out of jail a lot. And this is where her story takes a really, really dark turn early on. Her father ended up in prison for manslaughter. He beat a 7-Eleven clerk to death during a robbery. And it was all caught on video. I mean, you just can't imagine the kind of shadow that sort of brutal family history casts over someone.
No, you can't. And you absolutely see that shadow shaping Tanea's path directly. She felt unloved by her mother, who she describes as strict and always worried about her stepdad. So Tanea ran away at 15. She lost her virginity pretty quickly after that, and then feeling like she had nowhere else to go, she ended up on the streets. Surviving by what she calls working and finessing. It's just such a stark example of how early trauma can push someone right into these incredibly vulnerable situations.
And it gets even more horrific, unfortunately. When she was 17, her father got out of jail, and he attempted incest. Tanea recounts this horrifying proposition, and we're quoting directly from the sources here. He said, "I'd rather you fuck me than fuck any nigga on the street." Just unbelievable. But Tanea, showing incredible quick thinking, managed to get away, she told her family, which maybe surprisingly led to him getting arrested again for a probation violation. She specifically says this experience fueled her anger and this, grim determination to get everything I could get from every man. It's a really chilling motivation, isn't it?
It is, and that trauma seems to have cemented her strategy, her finessing approach. She realized pretty quickly, she said, that she could get more money and maybe be safer by forming relationships with men, sort of shifting from direct street work to what she describes as being a sugar baby. It was a calculated move, despite all the compromises involved.
And he definitely aimed high with her clientele, didn't she? The sources say millionaires, NFL players, athletes, doctors, sometimes having over 10 clients at once, and charging, $500 to $1,500 per session. She claims she was pulling in up to $3,000 a day just for what she called body rubs. Her whole strategy was using her gift in the gap, that's her phrase, her ability to make men feel good, fulfill their needs. But really, it was to extract the maximum benefit for herself, make them want to keep coming back for more. It's a pretty sophisticated kind of manipulation, really.
Yeah, but she's also quite candid in the sources about the downsides, the profound downsides, feeling like a sex object, like a sex slave, the huge emotional toll of, as she puts it, selling yourself.
Yeah.
She also talked about a spending addiction driven by this constant need to look the part, to keep up the lifestyle and attract those clients. It really points to that deeper psychological cost simmering beneath the surface of all that fast money.
And then there are the Diddy Party allegations. That's a huge, very public piece of her story. Tanea talks about being flown to Miami by someone she calls an Arabian prince, staying in this $30 million house. But then she says she realized she was basically trapped. The prince apparently told her she can't leave. She also mentions witnessing a lot of drugs, hearing conversations about him selling guns. It sounds terrifying.
Right, and she's very specific about being at P. Diddy's house, claims she has pictures from his Team Love photo booth as proof. Her take on Diddy's legal troubles is interesting, too. She expresses real frustration that he beat the charge for federal racketeering. Racketeering usually involves large-scale organized crime, but in her view, it was proven he was involved in prostitution. She insists she was nearly sex trafficked herself, and she claims orgies happened in Cuba. It really underscores how complex these big legal cases are, how hard proof can be, and how different people see justice playing out.
So where does all this leave Tanea now? Well, she did spend a year in LA County Jail for fraud things like running up in banks, clearing checks. She actually says she learned a lot from other sex workers in there, gained insights. She's a mother to 5 or 6 children from 2 different fathers. And she does acknowledge that at one point her kids weren't with me.
Hmm.
Now, though, her focus seems to be on selling ebooks. Topics like manifestation, vision boards, side hustles. She says she's trying to mend our relationship with her daughter, Nova, and build generational wealth. It's quite a pivot.
It's a powerful goal, definitely. But unfortunately, it leads us straight into Nova's story. And tragically, it really does seem like an inherited path. At just 13, Nova was, in her words, forced to move from relatively affluent areas like Beverly Hills, Marina Valley, to South Central LA with Tanea. That move, she says, dramatically changed her mindset. She started experiencing bullying, talks about being jumped by girls from Hoover at her middle school, Bret Hart. That sudden shift in environment, especially at such a crucial age, 13, clearly had a massive impact.
And Tanea's reaction when Nova got jumped. According to Nova, her mom just encouraged her to fight back. Nova claims that response led to her just not caring about anything. That phrase, not caring, that's such a profound sign of deep trauma, isn't it? It's like a defense mechanism, but one that tragically just opens you up to more danger. Did that emotional numbness show up in other ways as her story unfolds?
Oh, absolutely. It seems to have directly played a part in her getting into sex work. Nova says she started trapping, that's the street term for it, on Figueroa Street when she was 13, third time. She was introduced to it by an older girl she called Sister Favell. She described it as fast money, and, interestingly, noted she was doing it without a pimp, spending the money on herself. It's just startling how young she was entering that world and how quickly she seemed to adapt to it.
Yeah, startling is the word. And she also makes, apparently, a lot of money selling content online, things like sex tapes, custom videos. She even mentioned getting $500 just for pictures of her feet. She notes, some like to see me smile, some like to hear me talk. It sounds like this really industrialized form of exploitation.
And that brings up the whole issue of the exploitation she faced, which she's very clear about. Nova states outright that when men find out how young she is, they try to take advantage. She recounts one man even asking if she had friends age 10 to 14, just predatory. She also talked about a trick, a client trying to force drugs on her shrooms, e-pills, put them in her purse after she refused. She said she didn't take them, was afraid she'd never clap back, lose control. Her refusal there, it shows this maybe fragile but remarkable sense of self-preservation amidst it all.
And the harassment she dealt with just on Figueroa Street sounds harrowing. She talks about encountering maybe 20 other girls who just started yelling, throwing shit at her. One even banged on a trick car she was in, yelling, "She's 13, you're fucking all minors." But Nova, while recounting this, sometimes laughs. Yet she also admits feeling numb, depressed, unable to cry, especially at night. It's such a stark window into the psychological burden of living that life.
That numbness, yeah, the inability to cry, it points to a really deep dissociation. It's a common response when trauma becomes overwhelming. And if you look at her living situation, well, Tanea lost custody of Nova about 2 years before these interviews. The allegations involved abuse and exposing her daughter on social media. So Nova's just staying with friends, basically whoever let me in. Her feelings about Tanea are incredibly mixed, very complex. She says her mom is never on my side, that she compares me to other girls, but at the same time, she says she prefers being with her mom. She acknowledges I need to be with my mom, and even says she plans to fight for my mom to get custody back.
Wow, that's incredibly complicated. This longing for her mother, even with all the disappointment and feeling unsupported, it really says something about that deep, deep need for family connection, even when it's so fractured, doesn't it? And Nova, despite everything she's been through, she still has aspirations, wants to be a defense attorney, plans to go back to school, needs summer school to catch up, aiming for 9th or 10th grade. But tragically, you see those generational echoes again. Nova says her own father is a pimp and a gang member who don't care about me. Tells a story about calling him for a ride once, and he just refused to help her.
It really does show how deeply embedded these cycles can become. It's heartbreaking. And then, layered on top of all this personal trauma, Tanea and Nova's lives are tangled up in these very public relationships, which leads to these huge public confrontations, all playing out online, on social media. These aren't private struggles anymore. They've become content.
Right. Let's talk about Tanea and Crip Mac. How did that start? Apparently, Tanea first contacted him for just a $100 feature for her music. But he got interested after seeing her page, specifically mentioning her, quote, fat, juicy ass. Tanea describes Crip Mac as very impulsive, demanding she spend the night, demanding she record him, act out scenes for his videos, which were quite popular.
It's pretty fascinating how quickly these kinds of transactional relationships can escalate, especially in that online world. And Tania shared some quite explicit details about Crip Mac's alleged fetishes. Described him as a jack-off artist, that he likes to blow air in your ass, uses honey packs, presumably for sexual enhancement. It gives you a glimpse into this often strange, demanding world behind online content creation.
So eventually Tanea ended things. She said she needed to focus on her kids, that Crip Mac was just very demanding, wanted her always at his beck and call. And Crip Mac's reaction? Predictably, maybe, given what we've seen, it was very public and very harsh. He accused Tanea of scamming him out of OnlyFans money, called her a junkie on blue fentanyl.
Aha!
And as for his own legal situation, Crip Mac ended up getting sentenced to 2 years and 9 months in federal prison. That was for being a felon in possession of ammunition and also possessing a ghost gun. An untraceable firearm.
And then there's the history with Snoopy Badazz, which sounds just as volatile, if not more so. Tanea met him at a club while she was filming a YouTube series. Apparently, he pursued her after she turned down some other guys. But Tanea alleges Snoopy had a very strong, aggressive, dangerous type of personality. She accuses him of physical assault, culminating, she claims, in an alleged rape where she says she got pregnant. These are extremely serious allegations, all playing out in public forums.
Yeah, incredibly serious. But Snoopy has his own version, his counterclaims. He asserted Tanea was cheating on him. And he claims that 3 of the children Tanea said were his actually weren't. He says a DNA test confirmed this, bringing him a sense of relief. He also accused Tanea of slander, even making wild claims like she killed her auntie. Snoopy's belief was that Tanea only got involved with Crip Mac later purely to antagonize him, not out of any genuine interest. It's just this really public, really vicious back and forth of accusations.
Absolutely. And looking at the custody situation, Snoopy did have temporary custody of the kids for about 4 or 5 months at one point. But Tanea counters that by saying he don't even know them kids' names, just throwing doubt on his involvement. And Snoopy Badazz himself, well, he's a hip-hop artist from Compton, affiliated with Death Row Records, founded his own label, New Mafia Records. He talks about wanting to bring masculinity back to hip-hop. So for him, maybe this public drama, these disputes, they also become a kind of self-promotion, a way to maintain relevance.
It feels like this whole saga just became a public spectacle. The relationship, the breakups, the allegations, all splashed across YouTube interviews, channels like Soft White Underbelly, No Jumper, Winning Apparatus, Spiderlock Mo CC Black Box, plus TikTok, other platforms. Nova even touched on this, mentioned her mother's posts about her running away, hurt their relationship, pushed friends away, but then Nova also kind of shrugs it off, saying, "It's not doing nothing, and I post because I be bored." That comment from Nova, "I post because I be bored," that's incredibly telling, isn't it?
It's chilling, actually. Yeah, it really gets to the heart of that clout dilemma Tanea seems to grapple with. Is publicizing all this pain clout chasing, or is it just real life? But Nova's reaction suggests that maybe for her generation, there's barely a distinction anymore. The lines are just so blurred by the digital age. It creates this environment where really profound personal struggles can be, monetized, performed for an audience.
So, zooming out a bit, what does this tell us in a broader context? Beyond just these individuals, Figueroa Street in LA, where Nova was working, it's notorious. A known hotspot for prostitution, for sex trafficking, attracting minors. Law enforcement has initiatives, like the Figueroa Corridor Human Trafficking Initiative, trying to tackle it. There's also debate around legislative changes, like the Safer Streets for All Act, that decriminalize loitering with intent to engage in prostitution. And those laws themselves are controversial, right? Some argue they protect victims from arrest, others worry they actually embolden predators. It's complex.
Very complex. And when you tie this back to the socioeconomic factors Tanea talks about, she describes the hood environment as filled with jealousy, competition, this intense desire to go viral. She points out that for single parents trying to raise multiple kids, a standard 9-to-5 paycheck often is not enough. She frames it not like, oh, I just don't want to do the right things, but more as a reflection of harsh economic reality.
And Nova seems to get that too, even though she doesn't use it to excuse her own choices entirely. Tanea partly blames the pandemic for kids in low-income areas missing school. But Nova admits, well, that doesn't make it good for me not to go to school. It really speaks volumes about the systemic hurdles they face, but also about the personal accountability that can still kind of flicker within that.
Which raises this important question about the power of narrative, doesn't it? Platforms like Soft White Underbelly, they give a voice, a space for these incredibly raw stories, but they also face criticism. Like from the 50-50 Dad source we saw, questioning Tanea's parenting, the ethics of publicizing such private trauma, these blurred lines between real life and content in our digital age, they force people to navigate their deepest struggles out in the open, often for money. It raises huge questions about agency versus exploitation.
It's incredibly complex, no easy answers. And yet both Tanea and Nova show these surprising coping mechanisms, this raw kind of resilience. Tanea often talks about spirituality, saying, God got a purpose with me. And Nova relies on God for protection too, saying, I'm protected by God. That's who I really trust. Nova also talks about that emotional numbness, the depression, as a way to cope, which is tragic, but maybe understandable given what she's endured.
Absolutely. Despite just immense challenges and the incredibly public nature of their struggles, both Tanea and Nova seem to be constantly adapting. They're finding ways to survive, even sometimes trying to thrive within these really difficult circumstances. Whether it's Tanea finessing her way into new ventures like ebooks, or Nova holding on to that surprising dream of becoming a defense attorney, their stories, as tough as they are to hear, are these undeniable testaments to human adaptability, even under the most extreme conditions.
We've really unpacked an incredible depth of human experience in this deep dive, haven't we? From these devastating cycles of trauma, the complexities of street life, to the intense pressures of online visibility, and just that enduring struggle for survival, for identity.
It's such a stark reminder, I think, of how chasing fast money, chasing public validation, the constant exposure of our personal lives online, it's creating this entirely new kind of social landscape, one where, profound pain can easily become just another public spectacle.
So what does their journey really reveal about the bigger societal issues shaping lives in this digital age? And maybe, more importantly for you listening, what roles do we play as the consumers of these stories in this whole dynamic? Something to think about.
Yes, only thing that I'm worried about, punch you one of these pussy ass niggas in they mouth. Then they film and they'll upload it. Suckers do anything for that clout. They'll trick you out of your position if you ain't gained up and you ain't here watching out. Internet bloggers, internet gangsters, who the snitches? I can't tell. On the dead homies and enemies podcast, the only podcast that I know won't tell. But I ain't tripping, I just pay attention to my own little business and I get this mail. I'm in another state, making another plate. Big plat place on my state. A plush hotel, just counting mail. I do this shit and I do it well.